Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our live chat with Millersville University meteorologist Eric Horst. Eric, thanks again for joining us.
Sure, happy to do it.
All right, so I don't want to jinx things here, but we're looking at maybe one of the last big pushes here for a sizable plowable winter storm. Before we get into those details, I just want to go over how these wet surfaces out here today might affect some things. It's up in the 40s now, you said, and it's going to be obviously getting colder when the snow comes in. Is this going to affect the base layer for snow here coming up?
Yeah, well, it's going to get cold tonight because we have Arctic air that's going to slice back into the area, coming in at the ground level first overnight. So temperatures will fall through the 30s this evening, into the 20s late tonight. So yes, any standing water, any slush that doesn't have salt mixed in will refreeze, probably start refreezing around midnight, and will freeze solid by tomorrow morning. And then snow on top of that makes things tricky. Now, the good news is I know a lot of the roads and sidewalks I've been on have been treated with salt, so those will be a little slower to refreeze.
Certainly. So it shouldn't cause too much of a problem in terms of ice as a base layer on roads around the county.
That's right. And one thing, I've had a lot of questions this morning, is there going to be a quick refreeze this evening, like at sunset? And the answer is no. It's quite warm out there today. It's actually near 50 degrees out around Gettysburg right now. And although I don't think we're going to quite get that warm here, we are going to be into the 40s today. The roads will absorb a lot of energy. It'll take time for them to cool off this evening. So I would think people out traveling early this evening, no refreeze initially, just some plain rain showers. Now later tonight, the temperatures fall, the precipitation changes over, then it's a new situation.
So that is some good news there. And while we are in March, we're not quite out of the woods yet. Obviously, we have this immediate forecast, and then we'll get into the little later, the long-term forecast. So
right.
What are we looking at in terms of this next snow here, and maybe one of the final big pushes here for winter?
Right. Well, this is a very novel setup. We only see this maybe once a winter. This is not a big storm. It's not a nor'easter that's coming from the Gulf up the East Coast. It is essentially a slow-moving Arctic front with a couple weak waves of low pressure moving up it. So it's a very subtle forecast, and it's, as a meteorologist, it's fascinating because there's a lot of facets to the event in terms of temperature, where the front is going to be, how cold it's going to be when the heaviest precipitation comes through. Those are all things that, I've been staying up the last couple of nights trying to figure this out, and it's challenging. But I continue to think that the best setup is in the mountains of Kentucky and West Virginia into northern Virginia, and that we will be on the northern fringe of the steadier snow late tonight and tomorrow morning. So, yesterday when we talked on video here, I said 3 to 6 inches. I have no reason to change that. I still think it's the correct forecast, or at least the most likely outcome here in Lancaster. Sure, if things set up a little farther north, we get a little more. Things set up a little farther south, which is possible with Arctic air pressing. These things do tend to often set up a little farther south than people expect. It could be less. So, but I think the 3 to 6 is, we always try to forecast the most likely outcome, not the crazy high worst case scenario or the least case scenario, but we try to shoot in the middle and get it right. And 3 to 6, I think, is the best call right now.
Okay, and in terms of timing, this thing should start in the later evening hours, maybe when most people are heading to bed. Is that right? And then when they wake up, we'll be seeing the white coating on the ground?
That's how it should work out, yes. Rain moves in this evening, but temperatures above freezing. There's no rapid refreeze, no freezing rain this evening like we saw last night. Now, as we get late into the evening hours, the cooler air, you'll notice there's a northwest breeze that will develop this evening, and probably between 10 p.m. and midnight, temperatures will get back down to near 32, so we'll get some sleet to mix in, maybe some slick spots develop from refreeze as we head towards midnight. But in terms of accumulating snow, it's after midnight. I think it's between 2 a.m. and daybreak that we switch over to some steady snow. I'll tell you, the dry air coming in from the north is probably going to shut the snow off quickly. As you go north and west of Harrisburg, the snow could be done soon after daybreak tomorrow morning. Whereas as you get down into the Route 30 corridor where we're at, the snow should continue into the midday hours, but at varying intensity. It's not going to snow hard. It'll be light to moderate. Maybe in southern Lancaster County it snows hard for a few hours. And again, I think 3 to 6 is the most likely outcome. If for more snow than that, you have to probably head down into central Maryland, back, as I said, into northern Virginia, like Loudoun County, and then you get into the mountains of West Virginia and Kentucky, there will be places that get a foot of snow. But I don't expect a foot. I know some people have been teasing that idea for Pennsylvania, but I think that's a long shot. Maybe like on top of South Mountain over in Adams County, maybe they could get 10 or 12 inches, but I don't expect that in Lancaster.
So a bulk of your 3 to 6 inch prediction should be done falling right around daybreak, but we're going to continue with some snow through midday. Does that sound about right?
Well, I think it tapers off in the afternoon. I think the bulk of the 3 to 6 falls between, let's say, 2 a.m. and 10 a.m. or maybe noontime tomorrow, and then it kind of just starts to fizzle out as we head through the afternoon hours. I'll tell you, March sunshine is strong. Even on a cloudy day like today or a cloudy day like tomorrow, the March sun imparts a lot of energy to us here at the surface. So if it's just snowing lightly tomorrow afternoon, it won't even be really accumulating. Now, if it snows steadily or heavily, well, then the March sunshine doesn't mean anything because it can still accumulate. But I think most of the snow is late tonight into the first half of tomorrow. It's going to be interesting to see how this works out because, again, if we get lighter accumulations, let's say we only get 1 to 3 inches out of this, the roads may be just mostly wet tomorrow. But if the 3 to 6 works out, then we will have slushy and snow-covered roads, and it will be quite treacherous. And that's what people should plan for. Absolutely.
So definitely keep an eye out for school delays, maybe some closings tomorrow morning.
Yeah, for sure. That's quite possible. Again, but I'm thinking at this point the heaviest snow stays just south of us.
Okay, so we'll absolutely have our list online of 2-hour delays or closings for schools, businesses in the morning. We'll have that active. Eric,
hey, I was going to say 2 more things. Is behind this storm could be the final Arctic air mass of the season. It's going to get cold tomorrow night. We're going to get down into the single digits. We have a shot at getting to the record low, which is 4 degrees for Friday morning. We have a shot at that. So obviously, whatever's left over from this storm, it's going to ice up. It's going to stick around Thursday night into Friday. High temperatures Friday only in the 20s. But then we start the warming trend. We could be back to 40 by Saturday.
Right, and we were talking about a little bit next week. You mentioned a magic number to me about 50 degrees.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little on that?
I think it's likely next week. It could be one day. It could be 3 or 4 days that we get into the 50s. So whatever snow we get, it'll be a big melt-off as we head into next week. And I don't want to say winter's over and we can close the book on it next week. I think we have a little spring preview next week. I think we can expect spring fever across the county if we get into the 50s on a few days. But there's a lot of ice cover on the lakes. There's a lot of snow and Arctic air still across Canada. We are going to see some relapses, some cooler days. There could be an onion snow, a small onion snow that we see later in March or early April. So we can't close the book on winter, but next week will be a nice change for us. That's for sure. A treat.
And last thing I wanted to touch on here, Eric, we've dealt with a lot of nuisance storms this year. We're classifying them as small snowstorms that have just been enough to cause some problems on the roads.
Right.
None that were huge, plowable, massive 6+ inch storms here.
Correct.
Is there any science to that, or is it just pure luck that we've kind of been dodging these? We've been on the outer fringe, or we just haven't gotten this big storm. What's the science to that?
That's an excellent question, Ryan. It's really luck of the draw, to be honest. But also climatology. If you look at records for our area, York, Lancaster, Harrisburg, a lot of people are surprised when I tell them that a foot of snow, a storm that produces a foot of snow in this area, happens only 3 or 4 times a decade. Some winters you might get 2 of them, and then you might go 5 winters and get no 12-inch snowstorms. And if you look at weather records going back 50 or 100 years, 12-inch storms, they're not an every winter occurrence. Yet snow lovers, of course, are hoping they are and wishing they are, and some forecasters think they are, and therefore are very quick to forecast a foot of snow. But I teach our students here, you have to use climatology as a forecasting tool, and a foot of snow is a pretty rare event here. So you need a perfect setup, and perfect setups just don't come along every week during the winter season here. Our average snowstorm, again, if you look at climatology, the average snowstorm in Lancaster is a 2 to 4 inch snow. And of course, that's what we've seen most of the time this winter. So nothing unusual, but it does frustrate snow lovers. I enjoy a good snowstorm. It is frustrating when one storm drops a foot to our north and the next storm drops a foot to our south. But it takes a perfect setup to generate a foot of snow when you're only, in southern Pennsylvania, and it's not the snowiest climate.
Well, I think a lot of us are seeing the light at the end of the winter tunnel here. Of course, we'll keep an eye on these, as you call them, onion storms, these little nuisance storms that might be coming up after this next coming up week. To recap, the storm coming into today, snow, you said, should start around 10:30 at night, and we might start with a slush until it turns to snow, and then ending around noon or into the early afternoon tomorrow. And you're forecasting 3 to 6 inches for the Lancaster County area, with a chance for maybe a little more if the storm sets up a little further north.
Right. Yep. So lesser amounts to our north, higher amounts to our south. That's how this one's shaping up.
Absolutely. Well, we'll obviously keep an eye on this storm, and we'll have our list of delays and closings up on Lancaster Online, so you guys can check that in the morning for school and businesses. Eric, thanks so much again for your time. Millersville University meteorologist Eric Horst, thanks so much.